Hello, fellow mathematicians. In this video, I am going to go over some important values on the unit circle. So, just going into this video, I'm assuming that you've seen a unit circle before. I'm hoping it's not completely foreign. And I'm going to be using degrees. So, hopefully that makes it a little bit more universally available, so you don't have to learn radians before you watch this video. So anyway, let's get right to it. So, as you can see, I already have a bit of the unit circle here. This is just the first quadrant of the unit circle. So if I draw a quick unit circle, it's going to be this part right here. So what I want to do is I would like to highlight 3 important points on this area. Now, of course, I'm not exact here, but we'll go over that a little bit more. So, the first one that I want to go over is, let's just split this thing completely in half. So that would kind of mean that this would be the area of this would also be the same as this, which means this is going to be a 45-degree angle. So, let's think about what this coordinate point would be. Well, you could say that it's going to be the sine of 45, cosine of 45 for x, and then sine of 45 for y, but let's think about this in a little bit differently here, because you might not always have a calculator to do that for you. Now, if you think about this, you have just made a right triangle, and not just any right triangle, you made a very special right triangle, because this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And with 45, 45, 90 triangles, we know that the hypotenuse value is going to be x times the square root of 2, and then both the legs are going to be x. If you want to learn about more where this comes from, I do have a video that explains a little bit about it. But you don't have to know that for this context. So, the most important thing about this, though, is this is 1, this is the radius, which is 1 because it's a unit circle. So let's figure out what x is. So we know that the hypotenuse here has to be equal to 1. So we know 1 is equal to x times the square root of 2. So all I really need to do is divide both sides by the square root of 2. And there we have it. We have x is equal to 1 over the square root of 2. Now, the reason why you might not always see this is because for some reason mathematicians really don't like it when you have a square root in the denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by the square root of 2 over square root of 2. So this just ends up being 1. So it doesn't really change the equation at all. All we end up getting is that we have the square root 1 times square root of 2 is square root of 2. Then square root of 2 times square root of 2 is going to be 2. So these two things are the same thing. I just kind of multiplied them by 1, kind of. Just a very special kind of one. So we know that both of these lengths here are going to be the square root of 2 over 2. So let me just do that. Okay, cool. We just figured out a whole length of the unit circle, a whole point for that area. Okay, so now let's go over. I kind of ended up erasing this bit over here. Hopefully that's all right. So let's go over this point right here. That's kind of cutting that 45 in half, but that's all right. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a 30-degree angle, and I want to know what the coordinate values for that guy is. So kind of similarly to the whole operation that we did over here, we can figure out, okay, well, we just draw a right triangle. And not just any right triangle. This is going to be a 30, 60, 90 triangle, because this is a 30-degree angle. So there's some pretty cool things that we know right off the bat from these kind of triangles. We know the hypotenuse is going to be 2x. The side opposite of 30 is going to be x. And then the side opposite of 60 is going to be x times the square root of 3. So if you're unfamiliar with this triangle type, or you want to know where all these random values come from, I do have a video that goes over that. Or you can just look it up on Google. Google can tell you the same things that I tell you. So anyway, let's do the same thing that we did here. So we know, of course, this has to be 1. This is a unit circle. So 1 is equal to 2x. We just divide by 2. So now we know this, we now know that x is equal to 1/2. So we know at least that this part over here is going to be 1/2. And then now we know that's for this value, it's just going to be this, and we know x is 1/2. So we're just going to do 1/2 times, I'm going to write it like this, square root of 3 over 1. So then we get the square root of 3 over 2. Square root of 3 over 2. Okay, well that's a whole nother point that we figured out. And I have good news, because the next point I would like to go over is a 60. Ooh, this is going to be kind of weird. Okay, this is going to be a 60-degree angle. And this, of course, is going to be 1. So if you think about it, we already have it's just going to make another 30-60 triangle. A 30-60-90 triangle. The only thing is, it's going to be a little bit different, because the 30 is going to be here, and then the 60 is going to be here. So then, of course, that kind of flips all this stuff around. But in short, you're just going to end up with these two guys switching places. So now it's going to be 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. And that's all the 3 points I really wanted to go over. And of course, if you want to go through the calculations, do that, you can, but it's going to be a similar process for the 30-degree one. So those are the main points that you're really going to want to know. Of course, you can memorize them. I myself have memorized these points, but I feel like it's also important to be able to get to here if you ever need to like prove something in a math class, or you don't have a calculator, or you just have a bad day and it slips your mind. It happens to everybody. So, real quick before I go, I want to touch on one quick thing. I'm just going to draw a unit circle. Let's see how it goes. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, so we know these 3 points, essentially. So, for example, we know this guy is going to be square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. And then I'm just going to focus on this one right here. The same applies for these guys too, so don't worry about that. I'm just, for the sake of simplicity and time, I'm going to just do this one. So, you can take all of this and apply it to the rest of the unit circle. You just need to figure out if it's going to be negative or positive. So for example, if I end up with like a 135 degree here, that's just 90 plus 45. So this just ends up being 45 on that part. And you know that this is also going to be square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Now, you know that it's going to be these values, but you have to think a moment. Okay, well, now we're past, x is going to be like in the negatives over on this side. So all you have to do is make this negative, and then you're good. And then the similar thing over here. I'm going to make it so that, oh boy, that's going to be 180 plus 45 is 225. So if I go like a whole 225 degrees, this is still going to be 45 degrees. And then this is going to be square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. And then you have to think about it. Okay, well, x is going to be negative, and y is going to be negative. So then both these are just going to be negative. And then finally, for this guy, 135 degrees, I'm happy that I'm able to add all this together. I'm just gonna go like this. Hopefully that's not too terrible on your eyes. Degrees. Oh, it goes all the way to here. Okay. So of course this is another 45 degrees. So you end up with square root of 2 over 2, and then a square root of 2 over 2. And x is going to be positive, but y is going to be negative. So then you're just going to have that. So essentially, as long as you know these values, you can figure out what most of the most important areas on the unit circle are going to be. So anyway, I hope this has helped justify where all these values come from, because I understand that it can kind of seem like there's just square roots being thrown into the mix out of nowhere. Why are we dealing with square roots here? I don't get it. But essentially, that's where it comes from. I hope this is helpful. And if you, of course, there are a bunch of other resources out there. Like I'm sure Sal Khan has something put together at Khan Academy for this. But anyway, I wish you luck on your future math endeavors, and thanks for spending some time with me.